used to live here. This is my house that I used to live in, and we're just moving the last thing today, which is this piano.
Yeah.
I may say a Jewish prayer for the first time in my life. I don't know if there is a prayer for the moving of a piano. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. May the piano not break. This used to be my grandmother's piano. I would keep this because it was my grandmother's, which I think is indicative of a certain getting olderness about me. I'm 40 this year. I can't believe I've admitted that on television. I think as you get older, you do start to get more interested in your family history. Because my family history is one of immigration and refugeeism, you're never entirely sure how you ended up here. Who's your door now?
Your daddy.
Your daddy, okay, this is daddy.
He's got a frizzly beard.
He's got a frizzly beard.
David lives with his partner and daughter Dolly.
We'll get rid of it. Shall we draw now?
He and Dolly are descendants of German Jews who fled the Nazis. David's maternal grandparents came to Britain in 1939.
This is me as a boy, and these are my brothers, and this is Ernst, Fabian, who was my maternal grandfather. I used to go and see him like 2 or 3 times a week when he was dying. And I would say that, therefore, that I have quite a strong kind of emotional connection to his memory. This is him again, and this is his wife, my grandmother, Oddie. I like this picture a lot. I like the fact they look like they're really happy. I think this is probably, looking at how old they are, early 30s. So whether or not it's before the Nazis came to power, I don't know, but that's what I quite like about it, is this sense like it was probably just before and they're happy and things are okay, before it all started to go very badly wrong. It's one of a kind of a million things where the conversations with my grandparents were curtailed, either by a sense that they didn't want to talk about it or by my own lack of interest at the time.
David's search for answers begins in Cambridge, where his parents live.
One of the things about going to see my parents is they're the ones who are surviving, and if I'm going to find out about the past, then they're my link, really. I always look forward to seeing my parents. As will probably become clear, they're both collectors of weird things. My mum collects golf memorabilia, and my dad collects dinky toys.
Hello.
How you doing?
Hello.
Nice to see you.
Good to see you.
Hello. All right.
Yes.
Come in, right.
Come on. We have
Play.
such a big hallway. Come on. Go through.
This is my parents. This is my father.
Hello.
This is Colin Baddiel, Dr. Colin Baddiel. He's not a real doctor, but he is a doctor. And this is my mother, Sarah. And this is their front room. I'm just going to show you through here. More stuff. More stuff. And then there's this... this is where it starts to get kind of really mental. The collection. Amazing amount of stuff.
This piece was the very, very first piece of golf I ever found in the Portobello Road. I've only ever had one other...
David's parents have been collecting and selling memorabilia for over 35 years.
She's got a wonderful swing and wonderful feeling.
It's great, it really is. It's fabulous.
I think
Can we
so.
see the King Kong now?
Yes, you can. That's more fun.
You see that? That's great.
Oh, I'm sorry, the lady golfer doesn't do
So
that.
the lady golfer's very nice, but, you know, look at that. J-Lions, would that be...
David's mum was born Sarah Fabian She was 5 months old when her parents, Ernst and Otti, fled Nazi Germany in 1939. They left her 2 cases, which contain all that remains of their life in Germany.
I never actually knew the existence of these cases, and after my mother died, after Otti died, when I was clearing out the house, I came across both of these, and I thought, what on earth is in them? This is a paperweight, which they had done for their engagement.
Really?
Yes.
As well as their prized possessions, the 2 cases contain hundreds of documents, letters and family photos. They're Sarah's only link to her parents' life in pre-war Germany, but they raise as many questions as they answer. Arno was last seen in 1939. He was David's great-uncle. This is him as a child, with his sister Otti, David's grandmother.
We don't know what happened to him. So as I grow older, it evokes more and more in me sort of a sense of poignancy.
David's mum Sarah thinks she knows where and when Arno was last seen. At the time, he was 27 and newly married. She was a tiny baby.
It was 4 months after I was born, and Arno had come round one night with his wife and said, oh, we're just going for a walk. And this was like in the April of 39, and they never ever came back again.
They never came back?
They never came back to the house. It's the last time I ever saw them.
Arno's disappearance, coupled with discrepancies on her birth certificate, have led Sarah to believe that Arno may have been her father.
I was born in the March. I wasn't actually... The birth wasn't registered until the July, a month before we were due to leave. So it was never really fully explained. And I often felt as if Arno, and I don't know what his wife's name is, had said, look, we need to go somewhere. Will you look after the baby for the evening? And we'll collect her later. And of course they never returned. So I've often felt that my parents actually adopted me. I felt that nearly all my life. And I always felt, well, I won't ask Otti why she was still alive. She'd be very hurt at my feeling. But I thought I'd ask.
I didn't know that my mother had this idea that Arno and his wife had turned up one day and in her mind, however much it might not be right, had just left the baby with her parents, you know, kind of dramatically. That's, you know, it's just really shocking in a way to find that that's what she's always thought.
So Otti and Ernst may not have been David's grandparents at all. If Sarah's theory is right, his real grandfather was Otti's missing brother, Arno. To try and crack the mystery, David's going to Königsberg, the town where Ernst and Otti once lived.
It can be filled up by blowing into the rubber tube. The Boeing 737 plane is equipped with 4 clearly marked emergency door exits in the front and rear.
Königsberg was part of the German province of East Prussia until the Second World War. In 1944 it was bombed by the British before the Soviets arrived from the east to finish the job. They occupied the city, threw out all the Germans, brought in Russians from the Soviet Union and renamed it Kaliningrad. Since the collapse of the Soviet Union, it has remained a remote Russian outpost, sandwiched between Poland and Lithuania. For David, this means all traces of his roots, including a brick factory owned by his granddad, are now in Russia. To help him, his mum has given him the documents from the 2 cases.
It's written by Otti. I think written by Otti. I've never seen this. It's got all their addresses where they lived in Königsberg and where the brick factory that they owned. It doesn't actually say exactly where it was. Isn't it mine and my brother's? And what am I going to do with a brick factory? I'll start getting involved in building works in Eastern Europe. That's brilliant.
This is the capital speaking. We are descending to land the kilo outside. I wish you like a Thank you for your attention. Bye-bye.
As Kaliningrad is so remote, David must change planes in Warsaw before heading north. As the planes get smaller, the weather gets worse.
Well, we're in Kaliningrad, and I've just been incredibly violently sick. One of those being sicks where I just thought it was actually never going to stop. And rather unfortunately, I've actually been sick on my nice document bag, which includes the letters written by my grandmother. Building, you'll see it was really worth that journey to come here. It seems as if the Cold War isn't as over as I thought. It seems very Soviet here. If you look at the duty-free shop, for example, it's not quite the land of plenty that we were told that Russia had become. Attractive passport control I've ever seen.
Please.
Thank you.
This was Königsberg, home to generations of David's mother's family, the Fabians.
I think that even though I knew this place was called Kaliningrad, and I knew that it's been under Soviet rule for ages, I sort of expected it still to be somehow more German. I wonder how it would feel if none of this had been destroyed by the Soviets. At least I'd be able to feel the nostalgia or the sentimental kind of feeling that, oh, that's where it was, and, you know, I can touch it, I can see it.
Before the war, Königsberg was a historic university town, an architectural gem. It was also one of Germany's most important commercial centres. The Fabians were part of the fabric of the place, producing many of its bricks at their factory. They were wealthy industrialists and Prussian citizens. David's grandfather, Ernst, fought for Germany in the First World War before taking over the family business. In 1933, all that changed.
Nach 15-jähriger Verzweiflung hat ein großes Volk wieder Tritt gefasst.
After the Nazis came to power, German Jews were stripped of their rights and subjected to random terror. Within 6 years, David's grandparents had lost everything. The number 4 tram would have taken David's grandfather, Ernst Fabian, from home to work.
There's something, I suppose, quite poignant about the idea that it's a very straight line that he would have taken every day, exactly the same line or whatever, and the world would have been changing around him. You know, and I wonder how it must have felt to have been doing something so routine and watching outside and seeing swastikas go up and seeing your place of work being slowly eradicated, and yet you're taking the same tram line every day.
Eventually, Ernst lost his brick factory to the Nazis. David hopes to reclaim it. There's one person who may know where to find it. Ruth Perschke was a friend of the Fabian family. Her father, a building contractor, bought his building materials from their factory. Non-Jewish Germans, the Perschkes were forced out of Königsberg when the Russians arrived. Now 81, Ruth has travelled hundreds of miles back from southern Germany to meet David.
Hello, I'm David. Very nice to meet you. Hello, Ruth. Just sit down. So, you knew my grandparents, Oddie and Ernst?
Yes. Mein Vater hat von Fabians gekauft.
Right.
Ganz einfach. Alle Baustoffe. Also zuerst war das eine ganz normale Geschäftsbeziehung. Und mein Vater baute sein erstes Haus in der Zietenstraße. Die Bank hatte ihm 2 Hypotheken zugesagt. Aber das Geld kam nicht. Und dann kam ein Anruf von ihrem Urgroßvater. Und er war so ein richtiger Patriarch. Dann sagte er eben, ob mein Vater damit einverstanden wäre, er würde alle die Wechsel, die mein Vater unterschrieben hat, kaufen.
So my great-grandfather, he underwrote your father's debts.
Yes.
When my family was in trouble later on, did your father help in any way?
1937 hat mein Vater einen Auftrag bekommen von der Deutschen Arbeitsfront, weil in dieser Zeit war es schon verboten, von jüdischen Firmen zu kaufen.
Yeah.
Und er hat dann zu Ernst gesagt, keine Rechnung schicken.
Mm.
Die Rechnung erst schicken, wenn das Haus fertig ist.
Mm.
Und so ist dieses Haus für die Deutsche Arbeitsfront quasi nur gebaut mit jüdischem Zement.
Which is great, I think. Why have you come all this way from Stuttgart to see me?
Ich habe gedacht, diese Sache mit dem Zement, das gehört auch mal gesagt, dass es auch mal einen Deutschen gab, der sich über diese Bestimmungen hinweggesetzt hat. Und da habe ich gedacht, das kann ich meinem Vater sozusagen nach seinem Tod geben.
I'd like to thank your father for helping my grandfather.
Ruth visited the factory with her father and remembers where it was.
30 und da sind die alten Namen.
This is 1931. 1931. Okay. This is 1931.
Hier ist sie. That's Ziegelei.
That's the big factory.
And that's...
Oh, it's on the map.
Yes.
It's on the map. How brilliant. It's huge. It's enormous. Do you know what happened to it? I mean, during the war, was it taken over for military?
Arno.
You don't know.
There's only one way to find out what happened to the brick factory. David and Ruth are accompanied by a local interpreter, Svetlana.
Can we have one of those cars that turn into boats? Where am I going?
I will turn here.
Left? Ruth says left. This doesn't look right, but this is where the track ends. Well, I still haven't quite understood where it would have been. There must be some trace of it, I would have thought. You know, if it was an enormous factory, there must be some trace of it.
There's an old woman walking. Should we ask her walking?
Yeah, let's ask her.
In the yard,
Let's ask her.
somebody walking. Простите, пожалуйста. Hello? Бабушка!
Hello? A lot of dogs.
А вы давно здесь живете?
56-го года.
А что здесь раньше-то было, если помните, когда вы приехали?
Ой.
Ну, это меня.
Часовня там была. Здесь было кладбище.
Ага.
Понимаете?
Да.
Дальше был кирпичный завод. Огромная труба была. Там кирпичный завод был. Но кирпич разобрали, трубу взорвали.
Угу.
Но на этом все кончилось.
Не снимайте меня, не надо.
Ей неудобно.
That's your daughter. Я в огороде работаю. Не волнуйтесь. Если бы вы нам помогли, пойдемте сообщили. Поздоровайтесь.
Hello, I'm David.
Людмила.
Hello. Can you tell Ludmilla that it was my grandfather's factory? Ah, look. Look.
Вот труба вот тут была. Труба. This was the ground of the chimney.
I see. But this is the most standing we can see These red bricks? This is part of the factory?
Maybe it was the oven.
Yeah, maybe.
In the oven, maybe.
Can we go and look at the bricks? This is what's left. It's about as bleak as it could possibly be. I wish there was a bit more of it. That's what I wish. I wish there was a bit more of it. It doesn't make me think. In terms of making you feel you're getting in touch with your past, what this makes me feel is that my past was blown out of existence.
In November 1938, just a few years before the factory was destroyed, David's grandfather, Ernst, was among more than 25,000 Jews sent to concentration camps. These were not yet death camps. At the time, they were used to terrorize people into leaving the country. Ernst was released after a month. His letters show that on the 1st of July 1939, he was given 4 weeks to leave Germany or be returned to a concentration camp. Emigration to America and Palestine was restricted. That left Britain, where a visa would cost Ernst £1,000, £40,000 today. By now, Ernst's brick factory had been confiscated and he was penniless. With the clock ticking, he appealed to relatives and charities abroad. At the last minute, the money came through, and on the 5th of August, the family boarded a train at Königsberg station. Ernst, Otti and David's mum Sarah were among the last Jews to leave Germany, just 3 weeks before war was declared on the 3rd of September 1939.
The last time my mum would have been in Königsberg would have been when she was here, when she was 4 months old. It's amazing. It's amazing, actually. It really makes me feel upset and anxious and worried for my mother at some level.
Ernst and Otti's passports show their route to safety. They cross Poland, through the heart of Nazi Germany to Berlin, then northwest to the port of Bremerhaven.
Документы мне, пожалуйста.
Yeah, I'm waiting for my...
Паспорта, визы.
David's grandparents escaped, but many weren't so lucky. Otti's brother, Arno, was one of 3 million Jews trapped in Nazi-occupied Eastern Europe when war broke out. Otti and Arno's family lived in Danzig in Poland. Their parents fled to Palestine to escape the Nazi threat. But for some reason, Arno was left behind. David's going to Poland to try and discover what happened to him, and whether his mum is right in thinking that Arno was really her father.
You know, I'm interested now purely in a detective way into finding out whether or not Arno was my grandfather and whether or not my then adopted grandparents smuggled his child out of Germany. I'm interested to find out if that's true. If it's not true, I'm still interested to find out what happened to Arno. It's difficult for me to say this because I think it's a bit melodramatic, but I suppose I'm finding out from my grandmother. Because she didn't know what happened to her brother.
The family documents hold vital clues, including a letter from Arno himself.
This is a letter from Arno to Oddie and Ernst, dated 7th of the 3rd, 39, which is 5 days after my mother was born, and which says, my beloved sister, dear Ernst, I thank you so much for the honour of being made an uncle after such a long time. I congratulate you on your little daughter and wish you the best with all my heart. I'm afraid I wasn't able to write any earlier as I didn't have the money for the postage. Anyway, I share your happiness and I hope that from now on things will soon change for the better. I think that would suggest that he's not my grandfather, unless it's a very elaborate conceit, which I don't think it is. It sounds too heartfelt to me. Maybe she was someone else's daughter. Maybe she was.
Ernst and Oddie had been married and childless for 11 years. With visas to leave Germany at a time when thousands of Jewish families were trapped, it's possible they did adopt Sarah, even if Arno was not her father. Arno was last seen in 1939. After the war, his brother Joachim instigated a missing persons search, which reveals where he was last living.
In 1946, I didn't know this, Joe wrote to them with Arno's last known address, which was Warsaw, it turns out. His last known address was Warsaw.
By 1940, Arno was one of 500,000 Jews living in Warsaw, many of them driven there as the Nazis took control of Poland. In November that year, the Nazis sealed off the Jewish quarter, creating the Warsaw Ghetto. The occupants faced overcrowding, starvation, and random killings on a daily basis. What records of deaths were kept were mostly destroyed by the Nazis or the war. Any evidence of who died and who survived has been brought together at the Jewish Historical Institute. It's David's best chance of finding out what happened to his great-uncle, Arno Radbill.
In the brown books, we have a register of survivors.
Right.
We have more than 200,000 people in this register.
Is this all just Warsaw, or is this the whole of Poland?
No, the whole Poland.
The whole of Poland.
R.A.
Yeah, I can already see there's no Radbill.
Rad.
There's no sign of Radbill, is there? No.
But I'm sorry, but...
No. Is there anything you can suggest at all? I know that there might be nothing, but that we could chase to try and find if there any other kind of record of my great-uncle might exist anywhere in Warsaw.
Radbill?
Yeah.
Find.
Nothing?
Nothing.
Can you try...
Nothing next to this.
Can you try Arno?
Sorry?
Nothing.
Nothing.
P-R...
No. No. Not there. No. Not in this one.
Sorry?
No.
But I'm afraid it doesn't exist.
There is no record.
So, no. So, unfortunately, it's really common situation.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
I always feel happier with more knowledge, and it is a bit more knowledge, and I think probably I'm closer to some idea of what happened to him than his brother or his sister were when they tried to find out. And I think if he did die in the Warsaw Ghetto, I think that's probably closer to the truth than anything else.
Between 1940 and 1942, as many as 100,000 people died in the ghetto of starvation and disease.
I find it really, really difficult to walk around things like this, as does anyone human. Having had a child, it's almost impossible to look at pictures of children in those circumstances and made to be like that. So I actually can't do it really anymore. I actually can't look at it anymore.
Warsaw was flattened in World War II, but there are still reminders of what happened there. Arno's last known address was a stone's throw from this monument. The location raises a new possibility of how he died. On this spot stood the command bunker of the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising. By April 1943, at least 300,000 men, women and children of the ghetto had been deported to their deaths at the gas chambers of Treblinka. On the 19th of April, as Nazi soldiers prepared to round up the remaining population, several hundred armed Jewish resistance fighters launched a surprise attack. They were supported by mass resistance throughout the ghetto. The insurgents held out against the Nazis for almost a month. Most were shot, gassed in their bunkers, or deported to death camps. Resistance Command died at this spot.
This map shows where we are, as it would have been. Muranowska is the street that we would have been on, and if we're on the O, which is where the command of the Jewish resistance was, then my great uncle lived at U.
He lived over there. I would have thought that a 30-year-old Jewish man living there would have at least wanted to be involved in the resistance if he was still alive and could do something about it. So this could be the end of his story. Might have been here. The truth is something we're not going to find out about Arno, but I think we've come pretty close. I haven't found anything at all that even indicates that he was my mother's father.
But no one will ever know if Ernst and Otti adopted Sarah from another family in the summer of 1939. As the net closed around Arno, Ernst and Otti reached the port of Bremerhaven with 5-month-old Sarah. On the 11th of August, they boarded a ship to safety. They were among 70,000 Jewish refugees headed for Britain. But on arrival, their newfound freedom was short-lived. Forced out by the Nazis as German Jews, in Britain as Jewish Germans, they were considered dangerous aliens. In the spring of 1940, following the Nazi occupation of Belgium and Holland, Britain faced the threat of invasion. The new immigrants became the target of a press campaign. German refugees considered a risk were rounded up for internment, among them thousands of German Jewish refugees, including David's grandfather, Ernst.
More classes of German and Austrian aliens have been interned, and these pictures were taken at one of the new camps. It's hard luck for those who are genuine refugees from the Nazis, but let them realize that these measures are absolutely essential, and if their share of the burden of this struggle is that they must live in an internment camp, they must bear it without murmuring.
David's grandfather Ernst was one of 14,000 refugees interned on the Isle of Man. Otti and Sarah were allowed to stay behind in Cambridge, where they'd settled.
I suppose the crucial thing you have to remember is these are all people, including my grandfather, whose experience would include being herded up and resettled, or, you know, at worst sent off to camps and sent off to places that they didn't know what was going to be waiting for them there. And so I think probably what you have to imagine is the level of insecurity and that it must inspire. Actually, something occurs to me just now. If you look at the Manx symbol there, can you see it? What does it remind you of? It reminds me of a swastika. It's unfortunate. Obviously, it's not a swastika. It's just slightly unfortunate. That would have been one of the first things they would have seen coming in.
The internment camps comprised hotels and bed and breakfasts, hastily requisitioned by the government and sealed off behind barbed wire. In June 1940, David's grandfather Ernst arrived for his interment at House 1, Central Camp, Douglas. It's about to be demolished. Most recently, it was a Chinese restaurant.
God, it's horrible. Oh my God. Just come and have a look at this. To be honest with you, I don't think this has got that much to do with internment. This has to do with Chinese restaurants. Yeah, look, it's like some sort of weird Chinese restaurant explosion. This may have been where my grandfather lived. And I'm sorry, but this is how he left it. You know, he wasn't a tidy man. Ugh. You know, I'm sure in this series, people will go back to places where their grandparents were and their great-grandparents, and they'll be pristine. They'll be like, you know, just as they left it, and there'll be a spooky feeling of like, God, this is exactly how they left it, and look at this, and I can touch where, and look at this. I would like to get out now. I'm finding it's very oppressive.
While the hotel holds few clues of life at the camp, Ludwig Spiro can give a first-hand account. He was a German Jewish refugee, 28 years old, when he was interned on the Isle of Man along with his whole family. Since the war, he's lived in the home counties. Now, for the first time, he's agreed to return.
Hello, Ludwig.
Good morning.
Hello, nice to meet you. I'm David. Come in.
Where the pavement ends, there was a barbed wire.
And that stretched all the way along the promenade?
Right along the way there.
How many sentries would be standing along the wire?
Every 10 yards there was a sentry.
Behind the barbed wire, the Isle of Man became the Jewish cultural capital of Europe.
We created right away house number 18 was a university, and 17 became a school. I think we had 4 deans from Cambridge and Oxford. We had the Amadeus 3. We had a sculptor. We had 5 Nobel Prize people. So these were all earnest people who were very quickly roped in to work for others.
I always felt for my grandfather that he actually liked it. He had fond memories of being here, that he had a certain nostalgia for his time here because there were so many interesting people here and so many things to do and because it was so beautiful.
Rumour has it I was in tears when the camp commander advised me of my release.
David's grandfather, Ernst, was released after a year of internment.
You have to deal with your memories as they were presented to you, and my memories of my grandparents were that they were old people. The things that old people had, smelly hallways and, you know, lots of strange types of tea. And then I discovered which is something I knew but something I never felt, I think, viscerally before, which is that they were young people whose lives were torn apart and who all they had within that was each other.
Ernst was allowed home in April 1941, reuniting him with Oddie for good.
It's the beginning of a normal life for Ernst Fabian. It goes back to his wife and child, and they start adjusting properly to the fact that they're going to be living in Britain, they're going to be English for the rest of their lives, and they're going to make the best of it.
David's father's family, the Bedils, were also Jewish migrants to Britain. David's father, Colin, was born in 1934 to Henry and Sylvia Baddiel. David's grandparents on his dad's side lived in Swansea. As a child, he spent his summers with them. They lived down the road from this park, where David used to play football with his dad.
You all right?
I've got,
Have you hurt yourself?
as I say, a bit of sciatica, I think.
70-year-old man is about to break his hip and die. If you watch closely. This is the first place we've been in the entire film that actually feels that I'm bringing back my childhood. Because that's my dad blowing his nose. I've been there a lot.
How do you recognise that?
It's a particular part. You know, and so I haven't been here for about 20 years. So I am getting terrible waves of nostalgia, which are only being slightly dampened down by my father blowing his nose.
He always tries to do me down the
I
bastard.
don't.
Yes, you do.
You go for a walk around the park. And you can stop being grumpy.
David and Colin are here to find out about the first Baddiel to arrive in Swansea. Barnet Baddiel was David's great-grandfather and one of 120,000 East European Jews who came to Britain at the turn of the century, fleeing persecution or poverty. Many were on steamships bound for America when seasickness or the lies of unscrupulous ticket salesmen forced them to disembark at the first opportunity, Britain. Barnet Baddiel got off the boat at Swansea and never left.
This is the 1901 census for Glamorgan. Can you see anyone?
Baddiel.
Oh, well spotted. B. Baddiel. Head of family, it says.
Yeah.
Look at this. This is his wife.
Bessie, yeah.
His wife, Bessie.
Yeah, Bessie.
And it says Russian.
Yes.
He's Russian. Did you know that?
No.
A naturalisation certificate reveals that in 1892 the Baddiels came here from Latvia, which was then part of the Russian Empire. By 1901, David's great-grandparents, Barnet and Bessie, had 7 children.
So this is your aunts and uncles. Sarah Baddiel. Did you ever know her?
No.
Becky or Rebecca Baddiel, do you know her?
Don't know her.
Rachel?
No.
Benjamin Baddiel?
Of course,
you did
my
know
uncle,
him.
yeah.
Yeah, but they're all your aunts and uncles.
Yeah, but I knew Ben.
Yeah, but what's interesting to me is that they're all your aunts and uncles, and yet you only knew one, really. You've never been a very big family man, really, have you?
Well, that's true.
As well as their immediate family, the census lists relatives they never knew existed. It turns out Barnet had a brother called Harry.
Who
are these people? Then this is
Harry.
another one. Harry Baddiel.
Yeah, I don't know who these are.
Travelling draper, and was married to Harriet Baddiel.
Yeah.
Harry and Harriet had 8 children and tens of grandchildren.
I think this is quite interesting to just give a sense of how many Baddiels there are and that I don't know. It's just incredible. Chaim,
Yeah.
Rochelle, Yatzak,
Yeah, well, I think it's the religious...
Craner, Yisrael, Hannah and Mordecai. So what we know definitely is they're from us.
Yes.
In English?
They are very religious people. I can't believe there are so many of them. There's 3 David Baddiels in existence. A frightening thought.
Absolutely.
Terrible. How can I have been famous for quite a long time and none of these people have got in touch? What's the matter?
Do you feel miffed?
I'm surprised that none have got in touch. Quality cockles. I think you'll find that Chaim and Jacob and all the others would be very upset.
Yes.
To see both me and my father eating something as unkosher as cockles.
Well, not everybody has to be religious, do they?
You're never bothered about it at all.
I can't be bothered with all the oddy-waddy-bolly.
No. That's what my dad calls praying.
The religious ones might disapprove entirely of your behaviour on television.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not being unkind to you with
No,
that.
I don't. Honestly, no offence taken. They're just not going to want to talk to me, are
Yeah.
they? They're not going to want to talk to me or a television camera, is my guess. What we'll see is a lot of beardy men running away down the street.
Still, it's worth a try. David returns to London to trace some of Harry Baddiel's descendants, the relatives he's never met. Many are religious leaders. Harry's son David founded a famous yeshiva, a Jewish religious school. Of David's grandsons, Clive is a rabbi and Osher a well-known religious teacher. Many of those on the new family tree are also in the phone book.
The thing about finding out that you've got loads of relatives that you didn't know about is, do you actually want to go and meet them? If you contact your relatives, right, and actually you don't like them, right, you're stuck with them. It's not like you can contact them and say, well, you know, it didn't really work out, perhaps best we never see each other again, because they can always phone on High Holy Days or whatever and say, well, we better get together now, haven't we, because you're part of the family. So that's a, you know, hasn't occurred to me before, but it's a slightly socially dangerous thing to do. I'm going to try Osher, first of all. I'm a bit nervous about this. Ridiculous.
Welcome to BT Callminder.
Callminder. Have we tried Clive? We haven't tried Clive, have we?
Hello. Your call cannot be taken at the moment.
Shall I try another one? Mordecai. I'll call him. They've all got the same call minding service as well. Hello, this is David Baddiel speaking. We are related, and I was wondering if you could get in touch with me. I wondered if you wanted to be involved or get in touch or come and meet me. Don't worry if you don't, but if you do, give me a call. You know, I said yesterday to you with great confidence, we'll get someone who wants to meet us. I'm losing that confidence. Oh, hello. That's my brother. Hello. Hello, great news, a Baddiel has called, but sadly it's my brother. Do religious people pick up the telephone on Passover?
As it turns out to be a Jewish holiday, David heads to Golders Green, the Jewish centre of London. No sooner has he arrived than he's spotted.
Hello, David.
Hello, who are you?
My name's Beryl
Hello,
Hammer.
Beryl.
I know you're members of your family.
You do?
Osher Baddiel.
Yeah, Osher Baddiel, yes.
He taught me in Hasmonean.
Did he? What's he like?
He was eccentric.
Was he eccentric?
Well, he likes it. He had extreme views.
Did he?
He was anti-Zionist. He was a bit fanatic.
But a religious fanatic?
Yeah. He's different to the rest of his family.
Is he? What are the rest of the family like?
His cousin Clive is also a teacher and head of Jewish studies at Hasmonean Girls' School.
Does he? And how do you know them?
Because I went to yeshiva with Clive.
Yeah.
And Osher taught me. My brother is married to the niece of Osher Baddiel.
Your brother is married so are you related to me?
No, through his wife.
Right. Well, we're related by marriage.
Yeah.
I stand in Golders Green for 5 seconds and already I meet a relation. We've been spending weeks researching it.
But Baddiel is a well-known family.
Well, Baddiel is a well-known family, but this side of my family...
In my community.
No, in your community, yeah.
My family's not as well-known as yours.
No, I better go.
Well, Frank Skinner's not Jewish, is he?
Frank Skinner's so not Jewish. He's very, very Catholic.
Well, anti-Jewish?
Yeah. No, he's not anti-Jewish. No. I wouldn't work with him if he was anti-Semitic, no. All right. Thank you again.
Good luck in
all
your
the best.
programme.
Yeah, good Yom See ya. Bye-bye. There goes Beryl. There you go. Turns out they're big muckers. I can't believe I've become more and more Jewish as this has gone on, so you're using more and more Yiddish. Yeah. It turns out they're big players in the Jewish community, the religious Jewish community. People honking at me. Non-Jews. I feel a slight sense of panic, as if my past is coming to reclaim me.
David's world is about to get even smaller. Out of the blue, his fourth cousin pops up.
Now, can I just explain what happened? Yeah. This bloke was honking at me, and to be honest, I was ignoring him because that happens to me a lot. He's going, yeah, all right, mate. Yeah. And he starts doing this. He's going, me? I said, what? So I went over and I said, you're David? I said, yeah. He said, so am I. Which is totally incredible.
It really is incredible, because I've been searching, for a little while now for other ones. I was particularly interested in one called David Baddiel. And we haven't set this up. I know you'll think we have. We really haven't set it up. And he's just here. And I said to him, what are you doing here? Because I started to think you might have set it up. I said, did they call you? He said, no. I said, well, how did you know? He said, I've seen your picture in the paper. I don't know where he's gone. Hold on a minute. I mean, if you want... Oh, there you are. Hello. You're David Baddiel.
I am, yeah.
That's very nice to meet you. This is very extraordinary. So who are you, David?
Clive is my dad.
You're Clive's son, right. And does Clive have any other children? Have you got
5 brothers, 1 sister.
5 brothers and sisters, right. But you're the David. That's fantastic. And so, I noticed you don't have a cappel on. So are you not so from?
Well, I'm the rebel family.
Oh, are you the rebel?
I am, yeah.
How fantastic. That's great, I've met you. Because, of course, the whole thing about... I don't know if you know this, but is there was a family split. And my side of the family, years back, became secular. And especially your side of the family stayed very, very religious.
Right, yeah.
So you're the only one.
I'm the rebel family. Yeah.
Really? Is that all right?
That's all right, yeah.
Is that okay? Yeah. Is your dad...
So 100 years after the Bedils arrived in Britain, a chance meeting in Golders Green between 2 blokes called David Baddiel brings Barnett's side of the family together with Harry's. A month later, and David hasn't met any more of Harry Baddiel's descendants.
The situation with my religious relatives is that they would like to meet me, but they don't want to meet me on camera. And the situation with me is I'd like to meet them, but I don't want to meet them off camera. Because I'm worried I'm going to get into some terrible fundamentalist religious argument with them when they try and convert me.
It's the week of David's 40th birthday.
Hello.
Hello, hello.
And time to tell his parents all he's discovered.
Come in. Hello.
They're back.
This is your family tree. Oh, God, thank you, David. Look at that. It's enormous. These are your father's bricks.
From Orpa?
Yeah, your father's bricks. And I found these where the brick factory used to be. This is a letter from Arno, and it's 5 days after you were born. My beloved sister, dear Ernst, I thank you so much for the honour of being made an uncle after such a long time. I congratulate you on your little daughter and wish you the best with all my heart. It reads to me like someone who is genuinely surprised that his sister has had a baby after all this time.
So it's cleared it up from that point of view, and yet there's still a doubt in my mind.
There is another possibility, which is that you were adopted and it's nothing to do with Arno,
Yes.
and that I have no idea.
Dolly, do you know how old your daddy's going to be?
I don't know.
Daddy's going to be 40, and he's quite upset about that.
Oh my goodness, what's this?
It's going to be your birthday!
Yes. It's on fire, isn't it? Oh, God, it's like a recreation of the bombing of Dresden on a cake.
No, Dave!
It's a lovely idea.
Yeah.
I'm going to put it outside.
Yes.
Oh my God! Oh, my goodness me. What a very frightening cake.